The podcast you're about to listen to may contain random lines from musical theater, terrible attempts at regional accents, and a sincere discussion about mental health. You have been warned. Are you ready to start singing with your feet? Formidable. Allez, c'est parti. Non, nous ne sommes pas fous, nous ne sommes pas ivres, nous sommes juste dans la joie. Une joie profonde, nos cœurs elle inonde. Cette joie, elle vient du ciel. Non, nous ne sommes pas fous.
Welcome to Sing With Your Feet. My name is Lily Fields, and I'm going to be your fairy godmother for the next, well, however long this lasts today. Together, we're going to help you dig up the treasure you've buried in your backyard, dust off your sparkle, and discover all the ways that you make this world a better place. You may have noticed already, but this week's episode is going to be a little bit different. That new voice you heard? That's Matia. He sings the theme music for the show, and he has graciously agreed to loan his voice to a few other parts of the podcast as well. We'll get a chance to talk to Matia in a little bit, but just hold tight. So, why is this episode going to be different? Firstly, this is my Valentine's Day episode. Next to Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day is my favorite holiday. I'm the fairy godmother. I'm the one with the microphone and the one with the magic wand, so you'll have to trust me. And excuse me in advance if I get a little bit over-sincere. Second, you're going to be hearing plenty of different voices other than mine and Matia's this week. They are the voices of both internet strangers and people I cherish. All people who helped me dust off my sparkle and find my way again in their own way. As we said last week, getting your sparkle back does not entirely depend on you. Sparkling is a community affair. Today, we're celebrating our community. My goal is to encourage you to think about the people around you. People from your past, people from your present, and people who you want in your future. Anyone is fair game. Sometimes, the most unlikeliest of characters will appear out of the woodwork to help you pick up the tools you need as you start digging out and dusting off your sparkle. Case in point, a friend from 30 years ago who mysteriously messages you at 4 o'clock a.m. to give you unsolicited marketing advice. Yep, when you're willing and when you're ready, they will show up. I want to digress real quickly before I tell you about the third thing that's going to be different about today's episode. It's about that sparkling is a community affair thing. I take that very, very, very seriously. Sometimes we need internet strangers on the other side of the world who are not emotionally involved in our everyday lives. We need them to help us dig out and dust off our treasures. And that's why I started a group for our listeners on Facebook that's called You Are Not Done Sparkling Yet. It's a private group, and it's open to ladies only. Sorry, but not really sorry. It's going to be a safe place to encourage each other as we pursue our ideal lives. If you have knowledge, experience, or a desire to pursue your ideal life, we're here to support one another. We aren't a counseling service, but if you need community, we can be your home and we can be your sounding board. Let me say that again. It is not a substitute for therapy if you need professional mental health support, but it's a place to share when everyone around you is just too close to help you make progress. End of digression. Thirdly, I'm going to introduce you to a very important new voice you'll be hearing over the next few episodes. You are not going to believe who she is and what she does, but all I can do is guarantee that you're going to be as fascinated by her as I am. So that's the program for today. Like I said, it's a little bit different, but different can be good. So, first off, happy Valentine's Day! There are two holidays I cannot get enough of. The first one is Thanksgiving. While I may not be in love with the murky historical whitewashing and cultural stereotypes that it has propagated, what I love about this holiday is the idea that it's a day to set aside to be grateful. Oh, I just love that. I love saying thank you to people. Saying thank you means I see you. It means you did something, however small, to improve my life in this moment. I find that act to be incredibly life-giving. So yeah, I'm a little bit zany about Thanksgiving. But then there's Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, were we to dissociate it from the cultural junk about romantic love that it's come to embody, it is at its heart about love. And I love love. I love the feeling of love, whether sweaty and romantic or heartbreaking and profound. I love the fact that as love ages, it shifts from a compulsion to a choice. I love how little it takes sometimes to rekindle the embers of a love that started to fade, whether it's a friendship or with our life partners. I love how love changes as we get to know people. Infatuation grows to swoon, and swoon grows into admiration. Admiration grows into respect, and respect can be a desire, against all logic, to put aside who we are and follow someone who has earned our respect. I have a friend with whom I consider our relationship a mutual admiration society. The love language she speaks is words of affirmation, and me too. To read our correspondence, you would think that we were each other's biggest fans, and maybe we are. But because we speak fluently in the love language of the other, we can boost one another to do great things. This friendship is a rare and precious gift. But I'm going to argue that you don't need to have this kind of friend in order to do great things. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. No one knows you as well as you do. No one else knows what it takes to motivate you. No one knows what geeks you out. No one knows how you feel when you see your favorite color in the wild. Not only does no one else know, but I would argue that in so many ways, no one else even really needs to know. The important thing is that you know. You need to know yourself so well that you know intimately and intuitively what it is that annoys you and trips you up on a daily basis. Because by knowing what the little things are and how they make you feel, you can start looking for ways to find solutions. Oh, we're going to talk about this a lot more in later episodes. But it's really an important subject, so it deserves a tiny little tangent right now. The things that drive us crazy often do not faze the people we live with. Have you noticed this? This is the name of the game. This is life. This is one of the truths to which we must give our enthusiastic consent. We are not giving our consent to the annoyances. We are accepting that flashes like a neon sign to us can be absolutely invisible to someone with whom we share our home. We can't change the person we live with, but we can change ourselves. I'm closing the parenthesis for right now, but I promise we'll come back to this. You alone know what it would take to motivate you to feel joy again. You alone know what motivates you to do things. You alone know your why for anything and for everything you do. And if you don't know, you alone hold the keys to finding it out. You alone know what it would take to feel truly, unconditionally loved. Knowing yourself, being curious about yourself is so satisfying because in this one small area, you hold all the cards. You hold all the answers. There can only be progress. And because progress only depends on you, you will make progress. So, what's your love language? Remember, there are 5 love languages, and that we can show our love in one love language and experience love in a completely different love language. So, here they are again. Is it acts of service? If it's acts of service, I want you to think of what one small thing you could do to make your own life easier. Perform an act of service for yourself. I'll give you an example. We used to save all of our shampoo bottles and dish soap bottles for the boys to play with in the bath. And every time I would step into the shower, they would all fall into the shower, into the tub there, and it would make this noise every single time. No, I cannot tell you, there was not a time in the last 3 years that I have taken a shower and it has not made that noise. And yet, for some reason, the boys don't play with them anymore. I recycle them, I would put new ones in, and you know what I decided to do? I got rid of those, and I did not replace them. I've performed this act of service for myself, and when I take a shower, there is no more kaboom. I performed an act of service for myself. How about the love language of touch? Or let's be more broad about it. your 5 senses. How can you light up your senses this Valentine's Day? For example, I was at IKEA the other day and I walked past a whole container full of hyacinth blossoms. Oh, it smelled so good. Or a freshly peeled clementine. Oh, the way your hands smell when you're done peeling that thing. How about you wear that pretty underwear that you never wear because you never have an occasion? Play the music, eat the ice cream. Light up your senses. Be your own Valentine. All right, how about the love language of gifts? What kind of small gift could you give yourself? Something practical. A gift that solves a problem. For example, I have for my entire life struggled with social anxiety to the point that I would pick at my fingers and my fingernails and I would make them bleed. I mean, I had fingers on which I had no more fingerprints left. I happened upon an advertisement for something called stress relief jewelry from a company that I'd never heard of before, but it was called Levitate. And I was totally sold on it when I read a review of the product that told my story. And now I own one of those little rings, and after 40 years, I have all of my fingerprints back. I haven't picked at my fingers in more than a month. I wrote an article about this on my blog, and I'll link to it. And actually, it's funny because the people who make the jewelry reached out to me and have actually offered my listeners a 15% discount. So if you're interested and you have this problem and you want to buy yourself a practical little gift, I will put a link to the Levitate website, and the promo code is Lily15. What about the love language of spending quality time? If that's your love language, I want you to think about how you can take some time and do something that you've been meaning to do. Actually write yourself down in your calendar in pen and make this happen. For example, me, I'm going to have a tea party with myself. I'm going to have my favorite tea. I'm going to get dressed up in my favorite party dress. I'm going to get myself some cupcakes. Just me. Whether or not your love language is words of affirmation, I still want you to do this one though. I want you to take a few minutes and write yourself a letter. Tell yourself everything that you like about yourself. Then read it out loud. Even record yourself reading it out loud. Just do it. Because you will hear someone telling you back all the wonderful things about you. Maybe you could do it during your tea party while you're wearing your prettiest party dress. Sounds like a good idea to me. I want you to love yourselves. I want you to be your own intentional Valentine this year. Make this year memorable. I talked earlier about internet strangers, remember? Well, I want to take a second to thank one of those internet strangers whose writings have been really influential to me in this space. A lot of the self-love talk is also sometimes a little bit too sweet for my tastes. I mean, I love encouragement like anybody does, but I like mine tempered with reality. I love authenticity. At the same time, most of the self-love and mental health space on social media is occupied by women, which is fantastic because we need it. We need to express it. We need to hear what other women are saying. And that's why our Facebook group is for ladies only. But there are some things that just hit differently when said by a man. It's really affirming to hear from, or in this case, read the writings of a man who has confronted the demons of mental health struggles, has been curious about himself, has done the work, even though he himself will admit that he doesn't have it all together yet. I discovered this person on Instagram who creates as Bandra Bukowski. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go be inspired by his poetry and his deep thoughts. I reached out to him, an internet stranger, because in my ideal life, I am bold and not afraid to talk to strangers. And he kindly provided me with a few words to share with you. Mr. Bukowski, the floor is yours.
Be nice and kind, yes. Start with yourself though, for that's the key to that feel-good vibe you seek. Now play that again.
Well, I would play that again, but I might just want to play it on a loop for the rest of the episode. That's it. That's a wrap, ladies. Your fairy godmother signing off and all that. No, that won't do, will it? But I'll read it to you, just for good measure, so you can hear it in a woman's voice too. Be nice and kind. Yes. Start with yourself, though. That's the key to that feel-good vibe you seek. Play that again. If that weren't amazing enough, the caption for this poem reads, "Be madly in love with yourself." This little 6-word sentence really stirred the philosopher princess from her slumber, she woke up just long enough to give me a message for you, my country bumpkins. You know, it's okay that as you begin on your self-love journey, it starts by taking a ton of selfies. Remember what I said about love as it matures. Be infatuated with yourself. Be madly in love with yourself for a little bit. Infatuation grows into swoon. Swoon grows into admiration. Admiration grows into respect. And respect for oneself is the ultimate form of self-love. Once we respect ourselves, we will start making decisions that are good for us. So, thank you, Mr. Bukowski, for waking the philosopher princess up for a few minutes. Y'all can go to the show notes for a link to Bandrew Bukowski on Instagram. Give him a follow. Showing love according to our own love language is how we're most authentic. The love language I speak most fluently, as I mentioned before, is words of affirmation. You might say that I'm a cheerleader wannabe, the one who never made the squad. So I want to use up some of our precious time today to give out my Valentines, my intentional Valentines, and introduce you to some of the people from my real life who've helped me sparkle and have helped me figure out what to do with that sparkle once I found it again. You've been hearing me thank Jonathan Moulin since the beginning of the season. Jonathan has been my friend since we worked together more than 10 years ago. I had the privilege of staring at the back of his head all day, every day, for years.
Oh là là!
We fought like cats and dogs.
C'est pas possible!
Or at least like really strong-willed siblings. Jonathan was the station manager at the radio station where I worked, and quite often, my job and his job would find us in conflict.
Arrêtez de vous disputer!
His love language, and I have told him this a million times, so it's not going to surprise him, always seemed to be contradicting me on everything I said. There was a small thing we did together, though, that we both enjoyed. We hosted an on-air segment together called Le Compliment du Jour, the compliment of the day, in which I would tell a meandering story, yes, because I do that in French too, and at the end of the story, I would always share a compliment that would be appropriate for that meandering and long-winded situation. Over the years, we both moved on to other ventures, but we've stayed close. He was absolutely essential in helping me figure out how to get this podcast that you are currently listening to off the ground. He has put up with a lot of freakouts from me, and he's been very generous with his knowledge and skills. So I'm going to give him his very own compliment du jour. Jonathan, your talent is only outshone by the sparkle of who you are. And for once, because this is my show, you can't contradict me, so zip it.
Oh là là!
Next up, I want to introduce you to my friend Isabella. I wasn't able to get a recording of Isabella because this has been a crazy time for her family. But Isabella is someone that I met about 8 years ago, maybe even 9 years ago now, when she was auditioning for a choir that I was helping out with some administrative work on. Isabella had just moved to France from Poland. She had just gotten married. I think she'd been married like a week when I first met her. I liked her because she walked into that room and she knew exactly what she wanted to sing. And what she wanted to sing was a song called My Tribute, and she got up and she sang it in Polish. And she knocked that thing out of the park. She has a voice that sounds to me like Freddie Mercury. Oh, I just love hearing her sing, and I don't get to hear her sing nearly enough. We sang together for a long time, and then at one point when I started giving voice lessons, she became one of my students. The two of us were pregnant up to our ears, singing in my living room. It's no wonder that both of us have children that love to sing now, but who simultaneously tell us both to stop singing all the time. Isabella is a great friend. She was the person who helped me get started on my blog. She has a blog in Polish that I will link to in case you're interested. She writes, and it was something that she always loved to do, but she never got any encouragement in it from her family. And so as she grew up and moved to France, she started writing travelogues in Polish for her Polish audience about northeastern France, where we live. And it was actually pretty successful. So when I started having an itch to start writing and publishing my own writings, I gave Isabella a call. She is my badass blogging motivation. And she also has been instrumental in helping me get this podcast off the ground. I'm also going to link to an interview with Isabella. You'll get to know her a little bit better there too. But Isabella, this is what I want to say to you as my intentional Valentine. You sparkle. You've always sparkled. And you will continue to sparkle. My next Valentine goes to my friend Aline. Aline is the person I spoke of in the last episode, the one who got me singing again. She was the voice on the other end of the line telling me that she wanted me to sing. Aline is a woman of great vision and grit and determination. One must not stand in her way when Aline has a plan. She also has an eye for beautiful things and is the person who gave me my fairy godmother's orange petticoat. Once you've seen that petticoat, you know almost everything you need to know about Aline's sense of style. Fairy tale magic is her look. To hear her tell it, the first time we met at that planning session for a summer camp, she thought I was some sort of alien, some sort of extraterrestrial sitting on the floor with my guitar plugging away. Later that summer, during the camp, I had a day off. And in just about the kindest gesture anyone has ever done for me, on my day off, Aline brought me a guitar to play. Talk about speaking my love language. She believed in me when I didn't know there was anything in there to believe in at all. She walked me through some very dark times and never disappeared when things got ugly. Friends like Aline are rare, rare treasures. Friends with determination and vision and wisdom and enthusiasm. When it comes to being your fairy godmother, I can only hope to be half the confident that she has been for me. My one wish for you is that you find someone who will invest in you the way Aline invested in me. Aline, I don't know who I would be today if you hadn't come to rescue this extraterrestrial. I love you. You totally sparkle.
Alors on chante, on danse, on fait la fête comme au ciel.
I am truly honored to be able to present my next Valentine and introduce you to my friend and a musical co-conspirator, Matia Coogler.
Bonjour.
Matt is the kind of person who, when he walks in a room, he fills it with so much joy that if you're in a foul mood, he can really get on your nerves.
Mais non, quoi?
Ah, mais si, et tu le sais bien. That said, he's got such a winning personality that it's hard to hold it against him. Matt is, by far, the most talented musician I've ever met. He has an orchestra, a full band playing in the back of his head all the time. And sometimes, when he can articulate what he's hearing, he can make the rest of us musicians do some pretty crazy and pretty revolutionary things.
Oh la la!
He's also a morning drive radio host, father of 3, husband to one beautiful Rachel, and a more daring than I will ever be wall climber. Matt is special to me for all those reasons, but here is the one that, to me, is most important. He happened to be the first person I came across that day in November of 2020, when the fog of my postpartum depression finally lifted. His joy, when I shared that for the first time in 4 years I felt like me again, he made me feel like a superhero. He made it feel real.
T'exagères. Passons à autre chose.
I never told you, thank you for that, Matt. Thank you for just being you.
Passe.
As the philosopher princess always says, this world needs more joy, and sometimes it has to come from a little no-account town in northeastern France. Like I said, Matt is an amazing musician. At the same time as he is helping me out with my podcast, he is hosting the morning drive program on our local radio, taking care of his 3 kids and his lovely wife. He is also recording a studio album. I really, really, really want you to take a look at his website. He has it translated in English, so it's not like you won't be able to read it. Up there in the pantheon of French artists, you've got Claude Debussy, Jacques Brel, Edith Piaf, Maurice Ravel, Johnny Holiday, Daft Punk, and Matt Kugler. Keep his name on the tip of your tongue because you'll be hearing a lot more from him. And you can believe it, I won't be letting him out of my sight either. Thank you so much, Matt, for who you are and the joy you bring everybody in Mulhouse, France every morning on your morning drive program. Go be great. All right, let's stop all this sincerity. I gotta stop. I received a piece of mail that I will admit to you gave this fairy godmother a run for her money. Do you remember back in episode 1, the one entitled The Funeral Singer? I told you about how I have this kind of unique side gig of singing at funerals. Well, this little tidbit hit some of you in interesting ways. While I was worried about you finding it morbid, I was pleasantly surprised to learn that for many of you, it actually wasn't all that morbid at all. I had lots of comments about it, which I truly appreciated, so thank you so much for your feedback. For the moment, I'm going to turn the podcast over to one of these comments in particular, which I found extraordinary. Ladies, let me introduce you to Layla. And yes, that is her real name.
Dear Lily,
If you are the fairy godmother, then surely I
am the wicked stepsister. You have fairy dust and sparkles. You probably smell of frosting and baked goods. Me? People hear my name and suddenly they look for an exit. They scrunch down and wish for invisibility. But I'm not really a wicked stepsister. I'm just misunderstood. You see, I'm a death doula. And people don't like that word, death. But we're not so different, you and I. At the very heart of it, you and I are asking people the same question, just from a different angle. What I'm asking you to consider is this. In my ideal death, I am a person who... ... A person who what? Talking about death won't kill you. I promise. That's what I tell people. And it won't. That's 100% true. But talking about death, that inevitable day that we'll all eventually find on our calendar, well, it may just help you to re-engage with your life, to live fully and to live presently today. You might even call it living your ideal life.
Yours truly, the Wicked Stepsister.
Why, thank you, wicked stepsister Layla. In the next several episodes of the podcast, we will be hearing more from Layla and the fascinating work that she does. The more I talk to her, the more inspired I become, and I think you will too. Next week, we'll be back to our regular format. We'll be back to our ideal life exercises and the things that make us sparkle and the edge pieces and the waking up too early. Remember, I've started that private Facebook group called You Are Not Done Sparkling Yet as a way to support one another as we pursue our ideal lives. Sometimes it feels good to just share that little tiny bit of progress or to express one little stumbling block and get some encouragement and ideas from other people who've been there. It's like you have a bunch of cheerleaders just for you. If you have a question, a comment, or want to send me a voice message, you can reach me by direct message on Instagram, that's @LilyFieldsChallenge, or by email, lily@lilyfieldschallenge.com, Lily, Lily. I want to give a huge thank you to each and every one of you who are out there sharing the podcast, leaving reviews and comments, sending me emails and voice messages. I'm trying to keep up, and I am trying to get back to all of you individually. But if your response slipped through the cracks, please forgive me. Know that everything you are doing to help get our message of dusting off our sparkle and living our ideal life is making a difference. I have one new très grand merci this week. It goes to the formidable Robin O'Rourke for using his marketing talents to a noble purpose for once. Having a marketing guy in LA is magical for a fairy godmother in France. It means there's someone available for those 4 a.m. strategy sessions. Thanks for being there, buddy. And, as always, a special thank you to 7 Production for the use of the song La Joie as the intro and outro to the show, to Matt who sang it, and to Claude Ekwe who wrote it. Well, this is your fairy godmother signing off again. Happy Valentine's Day, and remember, it is never too late to start singing with your feet.
C'est tout.